This video is created by Jagrat Creations. It is on liquidation of companies. I want to solve one sum wherein I would like to explain you how Liquidator prepares final statement of accounts and reports it. Before I start with the sum and explaining its contents simultaneously with theory, I wish to bring to your notice three important points. Just observe. Section 328 of the Companies Act 2013, corresponding to Section 531 of the Companies Act 1956, is not yet enforced. You know that Companies Act 2013 is implemented. Up till now, students have studied a chapter of liquidators accounts, liquidation of companies accounting of in case of liquidation of company. Students have studied as per the provisions of Companies Act 1956. Now, at present it is 2017. Now the student may have a doubt in a mind. Are there any changes in Companies Act 2013 for the purpose of accounting of liquidation? To make that point clear, I just bring to your notice that Section 328 of Companies Act 2013 corresponds, means same as Section 531 of the Companies Act 1956, that is relevant for accounting for liquidation, and the new company law, Section 328 of the Companies Act 2013 is not yet enforced by the government. So the sections are similar. One, the new Section 328 is not yet enforced by the government. So we are required to go for accounting as per Section 531 of the Companies Act, and the accounting will be in line with Section 328 of the new company law. Same is the case with Section 227 and 444, Section 327 and 530. So these are the relevant important sections for the purpose of accounting of liquidation. All the details of this section will be explained to you in course of time in my various videos which I am going to upload within 1 month. So this is the important point that I wanted to bring to your notice. So whatever the liquidation concept that you have studied as per the old company law and the liquidation accounting concept that you are going to study as per the new company law are more or less aligned in the same way as they were before, with some few changes which I will bring to your notice in course of time. Now the sum that I intend to solve here before you is this one. This is the sum on liquidation of companies that I want to solve. Now, I would like to explain you basic introductory theory for the purpose of accounting or for the purpose of preparation of liquidator's financial statement. Now, I just give you brief idea. Company is an artificial person. Company is a legal entity which holds name but no physical form, so it is known as artificial person. The existence of company is brought or is created by the process of law. That process of law by which company comes into existence is known as incorporation process. Similarly, the existence of an artificial person comes to an end by the legal process, and that legal process is known as winding up of a company. So winding up of a company is a legal process conducted as per the Company Law 2013 or as per the Company Law. The legal process conducted as per Company Law to bring the end of the existence of a company. So the existence of the company can be brought to an end by the legal process. That legal process is known as winding up. Now there are various types of winding up by court, voluntary winding up, compulsory winding up. You are going to study all these things in the company law that you may study. But I say that in case of winding up, the company's existence is brought to an end. And for the purpose of conducting this process, a person appointed is known as liquidator. In case of compulsory winding up, the liquidator is appointed by tribunal. In case of voluntary winding up, the liquidator is appointed by the resolution passed at the meeting of the company, general meeting of the company. Now see, liquidator is a person who is going to conduct the legal process for bringing an end of existence of a company. So existence of a company is brought to an end by the legal process, and that legal process is conducted by a person maybe is identified as liquidator. Now what are the functions of liquidator? The liquidator after appointment assumes all assets of the company. He is a statutory owner of all the assets of the company, which for now he is a statutory owner. He has to dispose of all these assets, and from the proceeds of the assets, he has to pay to the creditors of the company, to the claimants against the company as prescribed under law. So liquidator is appointed. The first task that he does, he assumes all the assets of the company. He asks all creditors and claimants to prove their claim against the company. So he invites creditor for proving their claim against the company. After this being done, liquidator realizes the assets. From the assets realized, he pays all claimants as prescribed in the law. So what is the prescription in law? First of all, liquidator has to pay fully secured creditors. After that, liquidation expenses and liquidator's remuneration is to be paid. After that, preferential creditors are paid. Now what are the preferential creditors? How the preferential creditors amount is being worked out, that I am going to take separately in one separate session, in separate lecture, which I am going to discuss later on. So then, after liquidator's remuneration and liquidation expenses, the preferential creditors are paid. After making payment to preferential creditors, the debenture holders who holds or any other creditors who holds the floating charge over the assets are paid. After making payment to the creditors having floating charge over the assets of the company, generally debenture holders are holding floating charge over the assets of the company, so they are paid after preferential creditors are paid, and they are paid before unsecured creditors are paid. So after making payment to the debenture holders, we have to pay unsecured creditors. After making payment to unsecured creditors, if the surplus is left, company has to pay to preference shareholders. After making payment to preference shareholders, even if the surplus funds are available, then the equity shareholders are to be paid. So this is the sequence in which the payment has to be made. So whenever you prepare a liquidator's final statement, you have to show all these payments in a sequence as prescribed by law. This liquidator statement is nothing but a cash book or a bank book. It's a statement, but its one side is identified as receipt side, the another side is identified as payment side. On receipt side, first of all, opening cash balance and the realized value of assets are recorded, and on the payment side, you have to record all the payments that is being made by the liquidator as prescribed under the company law. This is how liquidator statement is prepared. This is an introductory theory that I have explained to you. Now let me read the sum and try to explain. Nirasha Limited went into voluntary liquidation on 31st of March 2017. The balance sheet as on that date was as under. So these are the assets. Total of assets is 7,10,000. On the liability side, there is preference share capital, equity share capital. There are two types of equity share capital. Both are partly paid up. One is paid up to the extent of 75 against the face value of 100, and the another type of equity shares are paid to the extent of 60 rupees against face value 100. 10% debentures 1 lakh. Interest outstanding up to 31st of March 2017 is 10,000. Creditors are 1,45,000. Additional information, liquidation expenses amounted to 11,000. Debenture holders were paid on 30th September 2017. Now liquidation, the date on which the liquidation process has started, the appointment of liquidator and the order for winding up is being served is presumed to be 31st October 2017, and the debenture holders are paid on 30th September. So debenture holders are paid after 6 months. After 6 months from the date on which the winding up process started. So whether these debenture holders are entitled to have an additional interest for 6 months, they are entitled to have an interest outstanding 10,000, that is up to 31st October 2017. So whatever the interest unpaid after 31st October 2017 up till 30th September 2017, should this interest be paid to the debenture holders? That I will discuss while solving the sum. And under what circumstances it is being paid and under what circumstances it is not being paid, that I will explain while solving the sum. Creditors include, so for 1,45,000 include mortgage loan of 50,000 on land and buildings, so fully secured creditors 50,000. Why they are fully secured creditors? Because the land and building realized value is 1,20,000. So creditors of 50,000 has a charge. Charge means right to recover their claim again from the proceeds of land and building. The proceeds of land and building, as told to you, land and building sold for 1,20,000. So proceeds of land and building 1,20,000. The claim of creditors is 50,000. So realized value of land and building is 1,20,000 and the claim of creditors is 50,000. So from the proceeds of 1,20,000, 50,000 has to be paid in priority to these creditors, and they are entitled to have a priority in payment and they are not subject to any risk. So they are identified as fully secured creditors. So claim of fully secured creditors gets settled first. Preferential creditors 15,000, so 1,45,000 include preferential creditors 15,000. The preferential creditors are required to be paid after the liquidators, after payment to fully secured creditors, liquidation expenses and liquidators remuneration, then we are required to pay preferential creditors 15,000. Now from 1,45,000, this 50,000 is a mortgage loan, 15,000 is a preferential creditors, remaining creditors are identified as unsecured creditors. Unsecured creditors means they have a claim against they have got a claim against the company and they need to be paid in priority to any payment made to preference shareholders and equity shareholders. But they are entitled to have a payment after fully secured creditors are paid, liquidation expenses and liquidator remuneration is paid, preferential creditors are paid and debenture holders are paid. After that, unsecured creditors gets paid. The liquidator's remuneration was 3% of the amount realized and 2% of the payment to unsecured creditors, including preferential creditors. So this is how the liquidator's remuneration is going to be calculated, that I will demonstrate while solving the sum. Creditors of loan have sold the land and building for 1,20,000 and additional amount was returned to liquidator, on which liquidator remuneration is not to be given. Now see, land and building on which fully secured creditors were having a charge. So creditors themselves disposed of land and building. They recovered their claim and the surplus left in their hands was handed over to the liquidator. And the realized value of this land and building, on that liquidator's remuneration need not be paid. Assets realized, machinery 2 lakhs, patent 30,000, stock 60,000, debtors 80,000. Prepare a liquidator's final statement of accounts. Now, after explaining the details of the sum, I would like to prescribe the steps in which I am going to solve the sum. I am going to prepare a liquidator statement, final statement, which will have two sides. Just observe. It will have two sides, receipt side and payment side. I will start with recording of the receipt side. First of all, so first step is to write down the opening balance, cash and bank balance. Then I will record the realized value of assets. By that I will come to know the funds available for distribution as prescribed in law. Now after recording this receipt side, I will start recording payment side. On payment side, I will pay first of all for the fully secured creditors. If I have realized the land and building, then I am required to pay fully secured creditors first of also. But if the 1,20,000 rupees are realized by the creditors, then they will recover their 50,000 claim and remaining amount will be received by me. So under that situation, out of 70,000 that I may receive from fully secured creditors, that is the balance of the proceeds of land and building after settlement of their charge of 50,000. Now I am not required to pay fully secured creditors because their claim is settled from the proceeds of land and building. So I'll first of all record receipt side, then I'll record fully secured creditors nil in this case, then liquidation expenses, etc. So first of all, I will write opening cash balance, realized value of assets, then I will start making payment as prescribed in the law. Let me start. So this is the additional information given to me in the sum. This is the balance sheet given to me in the sum. The first step is to write cash and bank balance. Cash and bank balance I will write on the receipt side. This is the balance available to the liquidator for distribution as prescribed under the law. Now I would like to record the realized value of assets. The assets realized: machinery 2 lakhs, patent 30,000, stock 60,000, sundry debtors 80,000. So this realized value of assets I will write on the receipt side: machinery, patents, stock and debtors. So this is the value realized. This is the value realized from the assets. These assets are not subject to any charge, fully secured charge, specific charge. So its realized value 3,70,000 is recorded. So this is the receipts that I have recorded so far. Now, creditor of a loan have sold land and building for 1,20,000 and additional amount was returned to the liquidator, on which liquidator remuneration is not to be given. Mortgage loan is 50,000. So from the proceeds of land and building 1,20,000, 50,000 rupees are recovered by a creditor who had a claim over it, and the balance amount is received by the liquidator. So liquidator got, creditors are 1,45,000. Out of that, mortgage loan creditors are 50,000. Building realized 1,20,000. Mortgage loan paid therefrom 50,000. Surplus received from creditors 70,000. That will be recorded on the receipt side of liquidator's final statement of account. So this surplus from fully secured creditors 70,000 are recorded on the receipt side. Now this mortgage loan is already paid. So now we are not required to pay any amount to the fully secured creditors because their payment is already being done from the proceeds or out of the proceeds of land and building. So payment to fully secured creditors will be nil. So no amount liquidator has paid to fully secured creditors. So first payment is required to be made to fully secured creditors. Their claim is already settled. Now liquidator is not required to pay any amount to fully secured creditors. So payment to fully secured creditors, I have recorded that to be nil, zero. After that, I would like to record liquidator's remuneration and liquidation expenses. So this is a sequence in which the sum has to be solved. So liquidation expenses amounted to 11,000. That payment is to be made next. After this liquidation expenses, I am required to record liquidator's remuneration. So next I will record liquidator's remuneration was 3% on the amount realized by him and 2% of the payment to unsecured creditors, including preferential creditors. Now 3% of the amount realized by him, he has realized only 3,70,000. On this 70,000, remuneration is not payable, that we have understood in point number 6. So liquidator's remuneration is 3,70,000 into 3%. This is the remuneration payable to liquidator as agreed. Over and above, 2% of the payment to unsecured creditors and preferential creditors. So 2% of the payment to unsecured creditors. How much payment is made to unsecured creditors? Still, up till now, we have not made any payment to unsecured creditors. So I will just keep a blank I'll find out the amount that I could pay to unsecured creditors from the proceeds and the extent to which I could pay them. On that payment, I will give 2% remuneration to the liquidator. Same way, 2% of the preferential creditors. Still, I have not paid any amount to preferential creditors, so I just keep a filler. Look at the style of solving the sum. I'm required to pay 2% of the payment to unsecured creditors. I'm required to pay as remuneration to liquidator 2% of the amount paid to preferential creditors. Up till now, I have not paid anything. The moment I will pay, I will give remuneration. That is the modus operandi. So, now, preferential creditors, 1,40,000, mortgage loan 50,000, preferential creditors 15,000. So, what are the unsecured creditors? 1,45,000 minus 50,000 minus 15,000. So, unsecured creditors worked out to be 80,000. So, these are the unsecured creditors, these are the preferential creditors. How have I worked out the amount of unsecured creditors? From total creditors, I have deducted fully secured creditors and preferential creditors. Why have I deducted? Because I am told that creditors include the following: mortgage loan 50,000 and preferential creditors 15,000. So I have deducted 50,000 and 15,000 from total creditors to find the unsecured creditors. Now, after this liquidator's remuneration, next payment is to be made to preferential creditors. So amount to be paid to preferential creditors 15,000. I have got sufficient funds so that I can pay this 15,000. And moment I pay 15,000 to preferential creditors, I am required to pay 2% remuneration thereon. So 15,000 into 2%, this is the remuneration that I will pay to the liquidator. As the payment is made to preferential creditors, liquidator is entitled to have a remuneration thereon for the payment being made by him. Now, after preferential creditors, I am required to pay debenture holders. 10% debenture liability is 1 lakh. Interest outstanding 10,000 up to 31st of March. Debenture holders are paid on 30th September. They are definitely entitled to have interest till the date of liquidation. Till the date of passing a resolution for liquidation means 31st of March. So 1 lakh plus 10,000 has to be paid to debenture holders in priority to the creditors from the available funds. So debenture holders are to be paid 1 lakh and 10,000. This payment has to be made. Now, should I pay the interest up to 30th September 2017, means 6 months interest on 1 lakh rupees at the rate of 10%? Should I pay interest for 6 months till the date of payment of debentures? That question arises. The answer to this question, should I pay this 6 months interest from 31st of March to 30th September? The answer to this question is, if the liquidator has sufficient funds to pay out all these unsecured creditors, and after payment of unsecured creditors, if surplus is going to be left, there will be surplus with a liquidator, then liquidator is obliged to pay interest to the debenture holders for 6 months. So, should I pay interest for 6 months? Answer to this question is, find out the cash balance available with the liquidator at this juncture. From that, does liquidator has sufficient funds to pay unsecured creditors? After that also some amount is going to be left with some amount will be available to the liquidator so that he can pay this additional interest. If that amount is available, then this additional interest for 6 months is to be paid. Understand these things. So I would like to work out the cash balance available to the liquidator. So total of receipts 53,000, 3,70,000, 70,000. So far these payments are made, and total of these payments 11,000, 11,100, 300, 50, 300, then 15,000, 1 lakh and 10,000. So all these payments so far recorded, that total amounts to 1,47,400. So cash balance available to the liquidator is 3,45,600. From that, he is required to pay unsecured creditors to the extent of 80,000. So cash balance available to the liquidator is 3,45,600. After making all these payments, which includes payment to debenture holders 1,10,000, this is the cash balance available. And from that cash balance, he is in a position to pay 80,000 rupees comfortably. So now liquidator should pay 6 months interest to the debenture holders because funds available are more than amount required to pay the unsecured creditors. That's an important consideration that students should notice. Now I can pay 6 months interest. So if I require to pay 80,000, I will have sufficient funds so that I can pay the debenture interest. Now once I pay 80,000 to unsecured creditors, I am also required to pay 2% remuneration thereon. So 80,000 into 2%. So these are the additional payments made. So 81,600 could be paid from 3,45,600. After that also there will be sufficient funds to pay the debenture interest for 6 months. Now I should pay debenture interest for 6 months. So 80,000 and this 16, all these payments are recorded. The funds left is 2,64,000. So debenture interest is paid at the rate of 5,000. So 1,15,000 is paid. So this is how the debenture interest for additional 6 months is paid, because I was having sufficient funds to pay the unsecured creditors and the remuneration thereon to the liquidator is being paid. Now, after making all this payment, how much is the cash balance available to me? That cash balance is being worked out over here. So first payment is made to fully secured creditors. Then liquidation expenses, liquidated remuneration, preferential creditors, debenture holders having floating charge and fully unsecured creditors are paid. Now the next payment is to be made to preference share capital, preference shareholders, and then the balance available will be paid to equity shareholders. So this is the cash balance available to me that you can work out. From that you can comfortably pay preference shareholders because the amount payable to preference shareholders is 2 lakhs. And preference share dividend wherein arrears for last 2 years. So preference shareholders are to be paid with their arrears of dividend. So on 2 lakhs at the rate of 6% for 2 years, 24,000 is the dividend arrears. So preference shareholders are paid 2 lakhs and dividend arrears 24,000. So 2,24,000 rupees are paid to preference shareholders. How much is the cash balance left thereafter for that? So these are the payments made. So cash balance available after all these things is 35,000. You can calculate. Have the total of receipts, make total of all these payments. So these payments works out to be 4,58,000. Cash balance is 35,000. Now this 35,000 is required to be paid to equity shareholders. There are 2 types of equity shareholders. Both types of equity shareholders are the face value of 100 each. But the difference in these 2 types of equity shareholders, the paid up value per share is different. The 1,000 equity shares are 75 paid up, 3,000 equity shares are 60 paid up. So, those who are 75 paid up and they have paid 75 minus 60, 15 rupees per share extra. So, out of this, on this 1,000 share, to have a pari passu distribution among shareholders, the additional 15 rupees paid on 1,000 shares, that is 15,000, is required to be paid in priority. So from 35,000, you can pay 15,000 rupees in priority to this 1,000 shareholders. So after 35,000, in this way 15,000 rupees are paid, 20,000 rupees are left. That 20,000 rupees will be distributed on these 4,000 shares equally, pari passu, equitably, on the same amount proportionately. So 20,000 divided by 4,000, 20,000 divided by 4,000. So what is the amount? 5 rupees per share. So on this 1,000 share, additional 5 rupees per share, and in this 3,000 shares, additional 5 rupees were paid. So 1,000 into 5, 5,000, 3,000 into 5, 15,000, 15 plus 5, 20,000. So what is the total amount paid to these equity shareholders? They are paid the additional 15 rupees. Additional 15 rupees that they are paid in priority. Over and above 5 rupees. So on this share, 15 plus 5, 20 rupees are paid. And in the second type of share, 5 rupees are paid. This is the verbal explanation. But I suggest you to prepare a working note wherein I suggest you to, the same answer you can work out on the basis of preparing a working note wherein I am going to prepare a memoranda cash account to find out the payment that I have explained to you. The same answer you can arrive at by preparing a working note, which I want to suggest. That's an alternative way of explaining. So I prepare memoranda cash account. There I write down the balance 35,000. Now to have a equitable, fair and just distribution amongst the claim of shareholders, I suggest the alternative method. In alternative method, which I am going to follow in all subsequent lectures, just attend. First of all, I will write down the available cash balance. Then I will notionally, not actually, I will demand the last call on all the shares. Unpaid amount will be called. So on 1,000 shares, I will call 25 rupees per share. So liquidator, if amount is called, then liquidator is likely to have, not actually is demanding, is likely to have 25,000 rupees from there. And on these 3,000 shares, 40 rupees could be demanded because 60 rupees are paid. So 40 rupees could be demanded. So this is the amount that liquidator is entitled to receive from this type of shareholders or contributors on demanding of a last call. So this is the total cash balance available. If this cash balance, now both the shares are 100 paid up. The first share on which 75 were already paid, 25 demanded. Now they are fully paid up. On this share, 60 rupees were paid, 40 rupees are demanded. Now they are also fully paid up. Now both the shares are of 100. So they are on the same category. So this total cash balance available, 1,80,000, is divided by number of shares. Number of shares 4,000. So refund per share is 45. Now refund per share is 45. Just notice, very important point. So on this 1,000 shares, 45 rupees are paid. And on this 3,000 shares, 45,000 rupees are paid. This is a notional receipts, imaginary receipt, memoranda receipts, not actual receipts. These are the notional payments, not actual payments. But in first type of shares, 25 could be demanded and 45 rupees are paid. So 25 demanded and 45 paid. What is the net amount to be paid? 45 minus 25. That is the net amount to be paid. So net amount to be paid is 20 rupees. The same 20 rupees I have explained to you verbally. On 1,000 shares, 15 extra were paid. That is to be paid. Over and above, all the 4,000 shareholders will be paid rupees 5. So 15 plus 5, 20 is to be paid on the first type of shares. The same working is being worked out. Here 25 is demanded and 45 is paid. So net amount paid to on A type of share on 1,000 shares, 45,000 is the payment, 25,000 is the receipt. So net amount is to be paid 20,000 rupees. And on this type of shares, 40 is demanded and 45 paid. So they are to be paid 5 rupees. So 15,000 rupees are paid. Now first type of shareholder, 75 paid. From 75, I have paid them how much? 20 rupees per share, 20,000. So 75 minus 20. 75 minus 20. So it is 55. So 55 rupees are lost by first type of shareholders. The second type of shareholders were per share 60 paid. They are given 5 rupees back. So they have also lost 55 rupees in case of liquidation. So both the type of shareholders lost 55 rupees per share out of the amount paid by them to the company as a shareholder. So this is how refund is worked out. Now if you make a total of receipts and payment, the total of receipts and payment should be equal. So that amounts to 4,93,000. 4,93,000. So 4,20,000 are the receipts, 4,93,000 is the payment. This is how the liquidator's final statement of account is being prepared. I have tried to explain you various concepts, giving you the theory reference for that. I have tried to explain you this. I feel that you have followed all these things. Thanks to all of you. I'm also going to upload few more videos on liquidation of companies in near future. You can observe them within a couple of days. Thanks to all of you.